listening to the education minister, it's very clear that he's very interested in the politics of it. So it's like, Akufo-Addo has done best in education in the past 40 years compared to John Mahama. And I'm thinking, do you think parents really care about that? Do you think when a parent is driving their child to a Brie Girls for them to start Form 1, he's thinking about whether Akufo-Addo has done better than Mahama or not? That's not what they're thinking about. But that's what he's talking about, because that's what's important to him, because he thinks that that's what will give him the vote. And education should not be based on who gets the vote. It should be based on what do our children want. So what I'm saying is that old boys and girls, let's come into the conversation. Let's not leave, because politicians don't have they are not the most sensible people in the world. And the fact that they are, and this is what I feel, as soon as you become a politician running something like education, your political calculation overrides other calculations.
Yes.
So
I agree with you. But what I will say is that, look, Bernard, the hard truth is that old boys and old girls and old students associations are always interested in the betterment of their schools. What I feel has happened in the last few years is that, like you said, because of political expediency and because somebody wants to skew the narrative to suit a certain policy or to make themselves look good, sometimes there are impediments in the way of some of these old students associations. There are impediments in the way of school heads who understand that old boys and old girls have a stake and they are willing to support. And you can see that the system somehow is designed to kind of nudge these people out of the space, because the more prominent old boys and old girls are in the development and growth of the school, the more negative it paints the government picture. You get the point?
I don't even know why they see it that way, because are you saying that when my mate in Augustine's built a 4-unit classroom block, it indicts government? It doesn't. No, they've been doing that for years.
Yes, they've been.
So I think the government policy on free SHS has been implemented with a very narrow view of trying to delegitimize anything that will compete with it.
And the point, you know, when we have this conversation about school and food and things, we've heard the stories of headmasters who say that, look, when the authorities get to know that all students bring food and they help and things, we all know the repercussions. We know what happens to them. That is why I make the point I make.
Yeah, but that's the problem that we want to solve. That why should contribution of people to running a school
yes,
be seen as an admission of failure by politicians?
I don't know. But you see, if I were, I think everybody, especially the politicians, they need to understand that the structure of secondary schools and how they work, that structure can't exist without the input of old boys and old girls who, whether you like it or not, have more vested interest in the school sometimes than the policy holders.
Which is why I'm saying that we need to take back the narrative on education, because we cannot afford an educational system where only what a group of people who have written a manifesto think should override common sense.
That is true.
All right. Now, next week we're having a discussion on governance, management, and financing secondary education in Ghana.
That's what the Achimota sense.
And I feel the people like old students, teachers, parents, labor unions, religious organizations need to be more frontal in their views about how secondary education is going, and not wait for NDC and MPP to take it and do football with it. Because, you see, I am saying that my mates in Ogasco have contributed to $250,000 project.
That's a lot.
Adisco was over $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, these are...
Pempe has done...
And these are people who are in their early 40s, whose children are probably between class 3 and maybe JSS 1. So I can say that these Ogasco boys who have done this thing, a lot of their kids will probably be in JSS 1, JSS 2. In the next few years, they'll go into SHS. Yes. All right? Then you have these churches who have, if you put all the church schools together, Presby Catholic alone.
Yes.
If in fact, when we did
Presby Catholic Methodist,
when you take the so-called Category A schools, if you take away the churches out of it, there's nothing left.
Yes.
Okay. My question is, what is the view of these people on all of this? What are they afraid of? Is Educhum the only person with sense on education in Ghana? Do you understand me? No. They should come to the party. We should review. There should be a more...
You don't think they are the party?
No, there should be a more... a holistic... What I'm saying, see, the narrative is the politicians say that... For example, yesterday, the main point was Educhum responding to Mahama. Why should it be Educhum and Mahama alone talking about this? There are so many parents who know the problems their children face in placement. There are so many people who know what they are currently going through, sending money to their kids in school. There are so many people who know that they are sleeping on Insoncrosio infested bed sheets.
Yeah.
There are so many people who know
that the food is terrible.
Listen to the Suesco headmistress speech day. CNL Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure what day it was. She spoke for like 5 minutes. She said there's overcrowding in girls' dormitory. The ratio she was given in terms of the number of girls to one toilet, you'll be shocked. This is a prime. This is PSC, one of the best secondary schools in the central region.
Kwame Nkrumah's school.
And the guy interviewed here. Yeah, he said the number of houses they had when he was there. I think it's the same number of houses, right?
Dr. Roxy.
Yes. Now you have the last time I went to that school, there were almost 5,000 people.
My nephew just went there.
Do you get me? So my point is that politicians haven't necessarily run education to the glory of God. They haven't run it. I mean, you have overcrowded secondary schools. You have what do you call it? These day schools that some very well located, some located in places that you can't really understand. And then you have this whole idea of the government wanting to do their own STEM schools as against finishing. All of this is because politicians, when they do their political calculations, it's not necessarily about quality. It's about who can get people to vote for it. And I'm saying that something as important as education, who is the head of Presby schools? Where are his views on free SHS? When I was in Presec, on our board, there was somebody called head of Presby schools. I don't know if the person is still there. There's somebody who's head of Catholic schools. Where are those people?
I think...
Why can't they come out and say, look, this free SHS thing we are doing, there are so many cracks that have to be addressed. There are so many issues that have to be dealt with. We have to have a conversation about even private schools. I know parents who are paying very high fees to send their kids to private secondary schools now because they are not, either they didn't get the placement in the school they wanted or they just feel that the quality in they're not. And again, when I ask a lot of my mates, and you can do this survey, right? You went to Accra Academy, you went to Prempeh College, I went to Presec. Those listening to me went to all these so-called big schools. If your child gets to JSS 3, and you have the money, what school will you take them to? Will you take them to the same Presec you went? Will you take them to the same Augustines you went? Will you take them to the same Adisadel you went? Will you send them to the same St. Rose's you went? We have to ask that question. My friends from St. Rose's, they talk about how when they were in St. Rose's, the school was less than 200 people. And the last time they went there, they couldn't believe the number of people who were there. Same thing with Wesley Girls. Like, how can Wesley Girls be so crowded? If you had the chance and your daughter was going to Wesley Girls, will you send her back there? You know, and these are the things we need to look at in discussing the quality of education. And one of the things that stresses me is like, it's almost like once somebody becomes a politician and gets a post, everything else they think is better than everybody else. That shouldn't be the case. So I am saying that these old schools should also, they should confront the topics.
Okay, so you feel that because this what's
come to the party
in the shadows and in the background, please. They are still working
in Ghana. No. Don't do the shadow.
I get you.
Put Professor Ade on primetime TV and ask him to comment on free SHS and ask him to tell you why Christian High has become one of the best secondary schools in Ghana in the past 10 years. Right? A school he started with his wife 25 years ago. Why are all middle class parents going to Christian High, including politicians and people in government? Why are they sending their kids to Christian High? Why are they not sending them to the other
regular schools?
Why are they going to Legacy Girls? Why are they sending their kids to SOS and TIS? Why are they sending their kids to all those schools? Why are they not going back to the schools that they went to? If the quality is that good, okay? So what I'm saying is that in Ghana, we have to come to the table and confront the issues, right? So Achimota Speaks, they are doing their own next week. I expect Gehe to do theirs.
Presec launched an 84.
Yes. And I expect ABSU people to say, look, who is the head of Catholic schools? ABSU is the first proper Catholic school in Ghana. Call all the 70-something secondary schools from the Catholic and say, let's discuss the future of secondary education from the Catholic perspective. Get the Catholic Bishop Conference to present a paper on education to the minister and write an urgent letter to him and say, Mr. Minister, we want to have a conversation about the state of our secondary schools. Right, the overcrowding in our schools and what we need to do about it, and the church and state partnership in education. Let's not wait for manifestos to be read and then we'll now be doing those things. Let's lead. All right. If Presby schools come together and say, let's have a conversation. If all Presby schools in Ghana decide I don't go to school again, do you know what that means for Ghana? Do you know the number of Presby secondary schools in Ghana? Osu Presec, La Presec, Tertiary Presec, Legon Presec. Every town in Accra has a Presec. Tema Presec. I should say Medina said will get some. You get me? If we don't do that, the politicians will destroy everything. If we don't do that, they will destroy everything. I'm telling you. It's because the political calculation is almost like the Bible says that the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of God. The ambition of a politician does not necessarily produce the best outcome for the citizens, because a political calculation is about numbers and votes. I'm not saying that everything they do is bad, but all parents know that all is not well with our secondary schools, and that most parents who can afford it are opting out of the system. Most parents who can afford it are opting out of the system. The private schools, the fees are prohibitive. If you earn a normal salary in Ghana, you can't afford a lot of these schools because they are charging in dollars, okay? And then contrast that to we saying we are doing free. Somebody is working in the Ministry of Finance. He will send his child to Christian High. Check how much they pay in Christian High, right? Then you're saying, come to Presec because I'll give it to you for free. If the person is prepared to pay that amount of money he'll pay for Christian High, why on earth will he go to Presec for free? And yet he still prefers Christian High. Do you get my point? If I'm earning 10,000 cedi salary and I'm paying through the nose to send my child to Christian High, when Presec is free, if Presec was as good, why would I send my child to Christian High? Do you understand me? If Presec is as good as Christian, why will I not take the free Presec and I'm going to pay to Legacy Girls, Christian? So I mentioned these schools: Shield International, DPS, the one at there are plenty. They are paying high fees, right? And the other point is like the private schools have been seen as some sort of anathema. So if you run a private school, instead of being seen as a partner to the system, it's almost like we don't really care what happens to private schools. So the private, what's the name of this organization? I forget the name. They'll squeeze you with policies and things to make things difficult for you. I mean, how? How many schools has government built on its own? A lot of the schools were built by churches and things before. So it's foreseeable that in future, private schools could even come up into some partnership with government. Because when the churches started the schools, they didn't start the schools for the government. They started it for themselves. Yet now they are all government schools. So in the next 20 years, who knows? All these private schools may become, because the business model of private schools is even being threatened by the kind of educational system we are running, right? When now we're told that they are going to make it so difficult for people to even do. So like if you go to a private school, you have to enter a university as a fee-paying student. Do you get me? So they are basically trying to make the private schools obsolete. And I think it's bad. It's wrong.
Let me.
All right. So let's come to the party and say that this is the kind of system we want. Let's not allow the politicians to destroy what we have. And I'm saying this with a lot of bitterness because we are deeply involved in seeing. Try and see you do a project for a secondary school. Look at the sacrifice. Sometimes on my platform, the whole day they are just raising money, right? The whole day to raise money to go and build something for the school. I spent only 3 years there. Even the school I spent from nursery 1 to GSS 3, I haven't given them anything. I only spent 3 years in secondary school. Yet they are collecting money. Let's go and do this. Some people are doing solar project. Some are doing this. When there's a problem, they don't even allow us to the school to even do interview because somehow you want to protect something. What do you want to protect? Do you get me? I feel the whole thing is, and then you have this whole PR thing. Like what are you talking about, Charlie? This is education, a child's life. I pay fees. If your child comes home, he's not learning properly, you take it very seriously. If you can take your child's education that seriously at the private level, why are we making the national one a subject of politics? What we're going to achieve by doing that? You know, it's and people should wake up and speak about the thing. When the old boys and girls, heads of schools, let's talk. What are you afraid of? Let's tell the politicians that the way the thing is going is not good. And let's stop this diplomatic thing we are doing. And the thing is getting bad. People are having to look for dollars to pay high fees for normal education. People who went to some of the best public schools in Ghana, the quality they got is even better than what they are not getting in some of the high private schools. Even the English they speak and the way they write. You know, it's Charlie. It's very frustrating, Godfrey. Honestly,
I get your frustration. I've been there, done that, passed it. You know, when it comes to what's happening with the sector, and a lot of parents, I share your concern about the silence of the education units of the churches, for instance, because Bernard, if you take the Presbyterian, Catholic, and Anglican churches. And they basically control almost all the 575 schools that are in the country. Between the three.
Yes.
Presby, Catholic. The four. Presby, Catholic,
Methodist,
Anglican.
Yes,
When you put that together,
that's almost all the schools.
That's almost all the schools in the country. Okay. But they remain very quiet on a lot of things. Once in a while, there used to be, from the Catholic side especially, there used to be an aggressive push for give us back our schools. It's gone quite a bit. Last year, I think Bishop Name spoke about Father Name spoke about this when he met the president, including other things. But it will be interesting to hear what their position is on some of these things that you've raised. Now, what I see and I predict happening is this, because they're not getting the schools back. They're going to build more schools that they are not going to hand back, that they're not going to give. And we started seeing bits of that happening. It's not, you see, you spoke about schools like Legacy Girls,
Christian High.
Those things.
Yes. Very soon, you will see the Presbyterian Church building new schools.
Really?
Oh, come now. The Catholic Church building schools. That will be run privately.
Like 6-2 school.
Not Francis Xavier.
Francis Xavier,
Which is not under.
It's not under government.
Yeah.
The school chooses.
And it's doing well.
It's doing well. They've kept it away from all the shenanigans. So it does well.
But can the churches have enough? Let me throw this out there. If the government were to hand over the schools back to the churches, do they have the resources and the organization to run it?
That is always the key issue. But as things stand now, does the government look like they have the resources themselves to run it?
Government is getting bigger every day. You see, if you look at the budget allocation for education, government is big.
Yes.
And because the teachers have to be paid, and there's a lot of different things that government provides, the government cannot be ignored or taken out of the system.
You can't, yes.
What you need is a partnership. But what I see is more like a tyranny.
Yes, because of the nature of our politics.
I'm saying that we have allowed that.
I'm agreeing with you completely on this.
If you are bishop, whatever, at the Catholic Church, you should tell Mr. Duchum that, dude, you cannot push. And government, we this is what I think. Catholic.
But why can't they push when you've given the schools to them? And
but the fact that you give the school to them does not mean you don't have a say. So you, the Presbyterians, you should come together, have a meeting and say, look, these are the 10 things we want to see immediately. And tell the politician. Yes, because they need you for votes. So you, the Catholics, you, the Presbyterians, you, the Anglicans and things, have a meeting about your school objectively, analyze the status, talk to your teachers, headmasters, give them confidentiality, do a study on the state of secondary education, come up with a paper, call the Minister of Education and tell him that where this is going based on the reports we have is not right. Then he will call his boss to a meeting and say, look, and you call Mahama, everybody, tell them that we, the churches, are saying that going forward, we don't want you to be using our schools to do your politics and your experiments, your 3-year, 4-year such thing. And that if you don't commit to these things, we'll not vote for you. That's how you lead. Tell the politicians, because they need your votes. Stop hiding under, because we are Ashanti, we vote for MPP, we vote for NDC thing, for them to be bullying you around. Because you control the, how many schools has government built? Look at the history look at this other college, 1910. Ghana was not even a country.
That's Anglican.
Yes, Anglican, 1910. Where was Gold Coast?
Nowhere.
Right now. And all of you are running away, and you are allowing people to now tell you that this is the best thing we've seen in education since sliced bread. Are you tripping? What are you talking about? Education? No, let's not. You see, this is the problem that we create for ourselves, and we can't solve it. Education, we have an existential crisis with education. We have a population bulge. So many young people, and we haven't prepared for them. Fine, you want to do free SHS? No problem. Let's work together. Let's not make it. Your MPP cannot. You don't have the exclusive knowledge about education to manage it alone. So let's stop pretending as if all wisdom in the world is in our head. And so it's either our way or the highway. No, how many schools have you even built? That all of a sudden, because you are empowered now, you want to tell us that the way to do education is the only way you know it, and everybody else is keeping quiet and watching you. What kind of society are we creating? What kind of children do you want to produce? Let me look at the overcrowding. Listen, when I come back from the break, listen to the headmistress of the school talking about the overcrowding in Suez School. And if headmistresses and headmasters will be honest with you, I went to Presec 2 weeks ago for an event. The foreign boys were just loitering about. So many. Mm-hmm. They were just wearing white top and khaki, sitting in the mango acid. Because apparently Form 2s are home, Form 3s. I didn't even know what they were up to. I was like, how can you be? I said, my time, how can you go to Presec and be sitting outside and just be sleep, like they call the paradise, sleeping at the paradise?
Now they're in proper paradise.
They're supposed to be weeding. There's like they were just aimless. There were so many, and I didn't even know whether they had enough teachers because there were so many students who were just sitting down. This is just 3 weeks ago. Like, what are you people doing outside?
I'm tired. So
when you were in prep, can you be sitting outside on Saturday morning like that?
To do what?
If you are not weeding, you are doing some sports, you are doing some activity.
You're in the classroom learning.
Shepe or something. They are just there.
You're doing shepe.
You know shepe. Charlie, let's do, the way when this kind of things happen, let me move to, let's do tech and social media trends. And I'll be, Samens is a global president of an old school. So he should come and tell us about what he's doing to help his school. But seriously, let's get involved in the educational conversation. Let's not leave it to the politicians alone. Okay. So why am I upset? I'm saying that the question facing Ghanaians today is not whether Nana Akufo-Addo has educational accomplishment is what's the word he used? And that's not the question. We have a population bulge and there are so many people who need to go to school. We are implementing a very serious policy which drives up the numbers. And we haven't adequately resourced the schools. She spent all the speech talking about girls' dormitory. House 1, where some men went, the boys' toilet is not even working. The house 1 that you went, they don't have proper toilet. Okay, Global. So I'm saying that, and all the old schools, I'll tell you, all the old boys are now doing projects. 74 projects, up to 98. What are they doing? Projects. In fact, what does it tell you? It tells you that the numbers we have, the resources don't match up. We need more schools or we need bigger schools. So if, for example, you are going to build 20 more schools, that's fine. Or if you're going to say the old Presec or old Suez School, give them 10 more dormitories or whatever. That's the question. So I feel this quick tendency to bask. We have had a smooth placement system. But the question confronting Ghanaians today is why all of us went to Samens, I won't even ask you because your children didn't go to Suez School. Mm-hmm. Your child will not go to Brentford. Your child will not go to Accra. Why? Because the Accra you went to is not the Accra we have today. Because the numbers are too many. The schools cannot handle it. Let me talk to Kenasigbe before I come in studio. He is a prominent Catholic. He went to St. Augustine's. Let me ask him whether his child is in St. Augustine's. He's on the line. Ken, good morning. Hello, Mr. Ashigbe.
Let me ask him whether his child is in St. Augustine's.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Ken, good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I am very well, but Bernard, I am as exasperated as you are about education. I just came back from St. Augustine's College. We had our speech day. And at that speech day, over the amount of money that Absunians spent, the 98 people built from the ground. They built 4 staff bungalows. The 82-year group, they renovated a flat. They spent over 500,000, seats. And if you look at the amount of money we keep on spending into education, and then when it comes to having a say in the way education is run, we are completely ignored. It's not happening. There were houses in St. Augustine's College, Glen House. The kids are sleeping on the ground. St. Teresa's house, my house, they have locked up all the washrooms in the school. So the people who are taking decisions for us in education, they better need to listen to us, who have vested interest in there, who are spending money in there, and are not happy with the kind of quality, that is coming out of these schools. You asked a question about my son. My son got St. Augustine's College, but my son is not in St. Augustine's College. My daughter got Holy Child. My daughter did not go to Holy Child. Why is that so? I am a proud Absunian, and it was one of the things I was talking about. My son was talking about going to some school in Kumasi. I said it was not going to happen. He was going to go into St. Augustine's College. But my daughter, when they were about to go to school, then that was when they started the track system. And immediately I had to go take her running around all the private schools, trying to go and write the entrance exam, because I was not going to allow my daughter to go through this experiment. One of my nieces who went to the Holy Child, they went to school, and in January they are back at home again. So I think it is important that those who are running education need to engage us. Those who also have stake in this education, as parents, as all students, as owners of these schools. And then you mentioned that government-owned school. Presec is not a government-owned school. It's a government-assisted school. So the government is only assisting it. And so if they are only assisting it and we own it and we are doing all the capital expenditure in it, it is important they listen to us as well. It is very, very important.
Let me ask you this. St. Augustine is one of the prominent Catholic schools, but Catholics now have the most secondary schools. In fact, the most schools in Ghana, if you add primary and all. I think the last time I checked in the almanac. Does the Catholic educational unit have a view on how secondary education is being managed? Things like overcrowding in schools, things like the free SHS and the feeding and all these things. Do they have a view? Have they expressed it? Have they issued any communique at all? Because it doesn't seem to get the media coverage it deserves, if it has at all.
So I know definitely there's been some conversation from the Catholic, education unit about the way education is run. But you see, Bernard, you made a point about the fact that our politicians tend to bully. So they seem to, especially in terms of the educational unit, they seem to have bullied them into some form of submission. I know the Bishops' Conference have made a few points here and there, but I don't think as owners of these schools, we have taken our rightful places. And I think that is something that we have also shared. And I completely agree with you that we should be speaking a lot more. Because you see, the interesting thing is that we have been managing these schools longer than these politicians have been doing. And you see, and so we need to be able to tell them at the point where, we were running the schools and the results were better, or we had a lot more say in the way the schools are run, and the results were better. We need to also be doing a lot more. And I think that I've been saying on a national platform, I know Absu at some point, we held an event where I think it was Kofi Abuchi, either moderating, and, we got a few people speaking about this. I think we need to, put it together and not only do it as Absu, but bring together all the grade A alumni and come together and, do this research and be able to be as forceful as possible to get government to hear that you need to partner us in this venture of education of our children.
Well, my view is that we have an election coming and our educational system has become the object of political football. You heard the minister talking about the record. Is it not possible for the stakeholders like the alumni, the churches to come together and make more substantive comments about the implementation of the policies? Not even because you guys don't set up policy, but the question about how the thing is being managed. And we are not saying take back the school and run it, but I get a sense that people have checked out of the system. Most people have sent their children to private schools. People don't really care. And the kind of numbers we are dealing with. I mean, somebody sent me a message today. Okay, one of my listeners. Her son is in Presec, which is my former school, and they are now contributing money to renovate the toilet in one of the houses. And it's not even an old house. This house is Akwaje house. It's not even, when I was in Presec, there was no house like that. It's a new house. Even they are struggling with numbers. So clearly, there is a challenge with running the schools, but we don't seem to be getting substantive positions. At best, people are whispering. And if you look at the way politicians talk and the way they direct the narrative, if we don't change tax, by 2024, it will still be NDC, MPP, football, kick left, right, left, center, and we'll be back at square one, whoever wins the election. And I'm trying to say that the various stakeholders need to come to the party in a more forceful way. And I feel you being a prominent Catholic in the public sphere, you probably want to urge the conference or something to take this more seriously than they probably are.
Bernard, it's something I have been doing. Fortunately for me now, one of my fathers is now the Episcopal chairperson for education, the Bishop of Koforidua. So it's one of the things I have been saying to him. And, we need, this is a conversation that we definitely need to have. You see, and I think you made the point. It's as if some of the politicians now were in school with them. You and I were in school with them. It's as if because they have voted into power, they then think they have more grey matter than we do. And that cannot be right. We also should be part of the conversation. So I agree with you. All of us, the churches, especially who are the owners, not only the churches, the missions, who are the owners of these schools, need to come together, a bit more research. And fortunately for us, we have people who are managing the schools. We have seats on some of the boards and all of that. So we can gather data and, be able to profess particular points and ask the political parties and both parties, to say that this is how we believe that if we run our schools, things should go, because it's not been going well. Just leaving it for just the NDC and MPP to do, it's not been taking us to where it ought to take us to. So we definitely need to have a say in that. And you see, when we talk about not even being able to run our own school, at the end of the day, whose taxes are used in running the schools? It is not GS's taxes, it's not the ministry, it's you and I. Our taxes that are used in running the school. So if we have built the schools and our taxes are running it, why can't we have more say in it to ensure that the quality that we want to produce is coming up? So I completely hear you, and it's a charge I am going to take. I'm going to take it with my old school. I'm going to take it with the Bishops' Conference. And I'm also going to urge that all the churches who have schools, we need to come together, do some work, to produce a paper and invite the politicians to say, fortunately 2024 is coming. So we're saying that whoever wins the election, this is how we ought to run. And I completely hear you. The politicians, the only thing they hear is the vote. We need to tell them that if you don't do it our way, we also will not vote for you. We need to make it, an election issue that we need to improve the quality of education that is happening in the school. We need to improve our stake, our voices in terms of the way you run our schools. We need to improve. Bernard, I'm telling you that as we speak, teachers are posted to schools not because of, gaps that are in there. Because somebody has gone to pay a bribe and as a head of officers, what then happens that you might need a science teacher, you'll be given a literature teacher, and you as headmaster, you dare not say this, you don't need this person, the person you go. By the time you see it, you've been moved away to some other place. You see, so these are the things that are happening that we need to find ways of dealing with.
Well, for me, my commitment is that if there's a conversation about this, we will air it. We are trying to push the conversation from a media partnership perspective. So thank you very much, Ken. Ken Asigbe is a former student of St. Augustine's College. And he's a prominent Catholic. Now, here's a comment. Bernard, good morning. My son is in Presec. That has been his dream school. He is currently in Akwa J House. Bernard, the conditions there are terrible. The PTA is now mobilizing funds to work on the toilet facilities and nets. We need to sustain this discussion. This is from Na Lamle. I have the global president of Swesco Old Students in the studio. So
global PSC.
Now I listen to I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. This programs, usually the program comes to me. I was watching the news and they did a speech day and the report was focused on the headmistress speech. And in my head I said, this woman is crying for help.
Yes.
She was talking about numbers to your own house.
But that's what happens when you have old students
headmistress
run the schools.
Yeah.
And it's something a lot of
schools are now trying to insist on.
Yeah, because a lot of schools realize that once they went away from that system, the schools started struggling.
Yes.
People don't have that
emotional.
So I can guess you people lobbied to get an old girl to run the school. Because even if you are a non-old,
you don't know anything about it.
I don't know. A lot of the alumni try and get an old boy or girl to run the school because they know the person can understand what they are saying.
Yes.
In the short time that you've been president of this institution, I'm sure you've been confronted with the stark realities of secondary school management.
Yeah.
All right. And I hope you feel my frustration when I hear the minister still sort of, this guy has achieved this. And I'm thinking, why? Who tells you that that's what is the issue? Why?
Let me say. So I've only been president of Swesco Old Students Association for maybe a month. So I wouldn't be speaking on authority based on having been president. But having said that, I have also been involved in the activities of the school for some time now, because of the president that I took over from, Mr. Denchi, lovely person. So again, you have the political rhetoric of giving or opening up access to education, which is fantastic. If you ask me today, the idea of free SHS, good or bad, I'll say very good. Okay, but with free access comes with increased responsibility and a stretch on resources. And we are talking about physical resources, human resources, mental resources, and all the things that would help
And financial resources.
That all the things that will help enhance the offering of the education ecosystem. This is where we find ourselves. If I'm going to give marks to opening up access, I'll say 150%. Access is good today, access is good tomorrow, access will always be good. But have we also carried the burden that it comes with? And I think the answer is no. Now, the fact that we have not been able to shoulder the burden that it comes with, for me, is not the bigger problem. The bigger problem is failing to recognize that there are problems that we need to deal with, and still using slogans to bastardize the whole offering of education. This thing of couching slogans as if it's a triumph over the devil.
Charlie.
As if it's like we have won.
Yeah, we have done
who
it.
is winning and who is losing?
We've done it.
No. It's a process. It's a process. You see, it's one thing after the other. And it's like deciding that I'm going to do new roads everywhere. Now, new roads everywhere in Accra is bringing new vehicles everywhere, and then traffic comes. What have you done? It's not something that you just decide, I've done it and that's it. No, it's a process. And we are saying that opening the access is good. Now, it's also come up with different problems. How do we manage the problems? We can't play the ostrich and then think that
there are no problems.
There are no problems. And the problems are so stuck in our faces. And Nathan, the closer you get to the schools, at times you just want to give up.
I wanted to ask you a question. When you were in school, how many were you? Just do you remember?
I was too young to know such figures, but having...
How many were in your class?
In my class, I think we were about 30, 35 back in the day. But
and I'm sure there will be about 6 streams.
4 at the time.
4 streams.
4 at the time.
So if you're in Form 4 streams and you're about 30, 35.
That's
Yeah.
So even if it's 40,
yeah.
so about 150 per stream.
But truth is, the numbers have, I don't know.
No, you know what I'm going with
10
this?
times.
You know what I'm going with this? The number of houses and the capacity in those houses, whether it has
It's
expanded.
overstretched.
Too much.
The houses have not increased. I mean, they've had 1 or 2 more houses. But this is a situation in most secondary
It's
schools.
very, very similar.
You know, go to Wesley Girls, go to Fancy,
Everywhere.
you know. And like you said, all students are doing their best. Okay. Now, if you are not fortunate to be part of a school that is blessed with all students that have means, you know, then you're in trouble. You're in a big trouble. I mean, and getting closer to my Swedu Secondary School situation, the Swedu Secondary School that I went to, and the Swedu Secondary School that has been until the new headmistress took over, it's like day and night.
In what sense?
In terms of quality. Okay, I can't blame it on the managers.
I think there are about 5,000 students now, right?
Yeah, there are about 5,000 students.
5,000 students.
You have 4,000 students. So yeah, about 4,000
And
students.
there are how many houses? 9 houses.
Thereabouts. I think they have 4 or 5 boys dormitories and then 3.
5,000 students.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And these are just 3 streams. So Form 1, Form 2, Form 3.
Form 3,
So
yes.
you can say on average 1,800 per year.
Yeah.
About
And one of the
1,700.
biggest challenges is accommodation for
teachers.
I mean, how do you run a boarding house of 3,500 students
With 30 teachers.
Did you just say 30?
How many?
I mean, teachers who live on campus, I doubt if they will be more than 15.
Hey.
So you see, the supervision is weak. The supervision is weak. So one of the things that we are embarking on, again, as old students, is to now look at putting up
accommodation. And you have land too.
We do have land. Accommodation for, and I see other schools doing the same thing.
A disco built accommodation. A lot of them do.
Yeah,
for
but
the
you see,
teachers.
no, if you don't control the policy, no matter how many flats you build,
it will still not
match up because there's somebody sitting at Ministry of Education who determines how many people should enter that school because they like it. And they have a certain funny quota system.
So the question is, what is missing from the conversation that we need to bring? Because we've identified that free SHS is a good policy on paper. We've also identified that its implementation has been fraught with challenges. We've also identified that the current receptibility of the education managers to dissenting views is very low. So essentially, it's either our way or the highway. Now, what should we bring to the discussion to enrich the process? So things around the infrastructure, the debate, the funding debate, the issues around who can pay, who pays. Because I'm bringing this because there are a lot of people still with disposable income who can contribute to education, but the current system doesn't allow them to contribute. A lot of them are sending their children to private schools and paying sometimes 7-8 times what they would have paid. So how do we, what should we do now to get the quality improved?
I can tell you the first thing we need to do. The people who determine policy need to admit that there are gaps in the implementation. So admitting that, look, the policy is great, but the fact is there are bottlenecks. We are suffering because there's not enough money. We haven't added infrastructure. So first thing is, let us all admit that there is a challenge and see that old students, old boys, old girls are trying to fill that vacuum and bring about a solution. So once you don't have people admitting that there's a challenge, you can't even have that conversation.
In this political context of admitting, so let me push you a bit. Yeah. So we are in competitive politics and we've politicized education.
That is our fundamental problem.
Are you being realistic if you say, so let me ask you, if Editum goes out of Nanado says, okay, you know what, VSS is great, but we're struggling. So we're prepared to listen to views around how to make it better. Well, how will Ghanaians take it? Will Ghanaians say, hey, or Ghanaians say, oh, these guys are really thinking? Because I feel like there's a certain fear of admitting that let's call for help to make this better. So they are going to insist and saying, we said we'll do it, we'll find the resources to do it, we're not going to review it.
And further exacerbate things?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So does the political conversation, does the political conversation around it make it difficult? Maybe you can deal with that. Make it, because you know that politics is a zero-sum game for them. So that if he comes on air to say, Charlie, the free SHS thing, and that forms how, but if the parents can contribute a bit here and there, if some companies can do this or that, we can make it happen. Will he lose anything?
Well, it depends on how they contextualize it. You see, at times, some communication problems that politicians face are actually created by politicians themselves. For instance, if I'm president and I'm appointing you as a minister, I need to let you know right at the time of appointment that your appointment is with a limited tenure, which I can renew if I find appropriate. So, for instance, okay, I'm appointing you, but your first tenure is 2 years. Let it sink, so that after 2 years, if you review and it's not good and you're taking him off, it doesn't become a fight. But here, appointments are made, people thinking that whatever appointment is coterminous with the president's term of office. Yeah. And so, chaos. Now you're going to do free SHS. I can understand the slogan. But who told you that the quantity alone is what solves our problem? Quantity at the expense of quality will not solve anybody's problem. That's the problem. That's where we find ourselves. So how do we turn it around so that even with the quantity, because as for the quantity, I don't think there's any government coming
that will stop it. So they have admitted that the numbers are high. and they all have to go.
And the numbers will be high.
I want to push you a bit on this.
Just a bit. You see that thing started at the free SHS place. It's been how many years since free SHS started?
At least
6 years.
6 years. Guess
universities, they suffer.
Ash.
You just got it. Bernard, universities are the worst. Students overflowing in lecture halls.
See,
lecturers teaching
It was only a matter of time.
on average 1,000 per semester. Very terrible. Now, I wanted to ask a question. So I went to PSEC last 3 weeks for some event. And then I was talking to some of the guys and they said there are 24 science classes. Now let me explain that. When I was in PSEC in 96 to 98, there was science, Art 1 and 2 and Art 3. 3 art classes, 2 business classes, 1 agri class, 1 visual art class. And there were 4 science classes. So science had the most. So there were 2, 1 was bio, 3 were maths. That's what we call it. So 4 science. So the whole science were 4. So Form 1 E, F, G, H or something. Now, I'm told that PSEC has 5,400 students. My whole year group in 98 was just 400. Now, the whole school is 5,004. Now, they say science has 24 streams. Now, so from 4, it's
Per year or
per year.
the whole school.
So,
to put
Form 1
together.
science is 24 streams.
That's difficult to.
Yeah, so my question now is, where we are as a country now, do we say, let's build more schools, recruit more teachers, and decongest all the schools? So that Suesco with your 4,000, PSEC was at 5,000. If there was another school near Suesco that they could go, another 1,000 would go. Or let's say, give the Suesco the 4,000. Build 3 new houses for Suesco, build 10 new bungalows, which is easier. You understand? Because is it a question of decongesting the schools that we have by building newer schools and making them day schools? Or saying that let the schools there, but get more teachers in there, get more buildings in there, because there has to be a policy emphasis. And because of where you're sitting, when you talk to your stakeholders, which one would be more reasonable to do?
Bernard, is a combination of both. It's a combination of both. It's resourcing the current schools and also opening up the education facilities in underserved areas. Okay, opening it up in underserved areas as building new schools in areas that are lacking, and also resourcing those who lack.
But of course, not sacrificing quality in the process.
You know, the quality, sacrificing of the quality is a long chain.
Okay.
Which you just mentioned, and it starts from the quality of instruction. The quality of instruction is about the institutions that prepare teachers. What are we doing about those institutions? The teacher training colleges, have we resourced them? Have we increased their capacity? I'm not updated on that. But if we are not increasing the capacity or our capacity to turn out teachers, and we are still
good teachers at
expanding,
that,
then it's a big problem.
Do you know how many teachers Suesco has?
No.
It's good to check that, because the teacher-student ratio too will be good to check.
Yeah.
How many scripts the teacher has to mark? Because you're saying there are about 15 teachers on campus. So,
maybe 15 and 20 students living on campus.
And the borders are probably over 2,000.
The borders are about over 3,000 borders.
So how do they manage them? If somebody's
That's the magic side.
Because I'm thinking about if somebody's phone, something get lost, and they say he's going to report to the housemaster. How will he even begin to do roll call?
Look, for instance, the girls' dormitory.
Yeah.
The Get Fund has built a new dormitory.
Yeah.
And the dormitory, and you know the thing they say is about 90% complete. I don't know who does those calculations.
So it's not ready.
The thing has been sitting there. The thing is ready. They say they have to come and commission it, open it. And the thing is sitting there.
That's why it says 95%
Yes,
complete.
the thing is sitting there and nobody can use it.
So the thing is not being used.
It's not being used.
I'm moving to it.
But I don't run the school. I'm just saying that. You see, some of the issues are very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
95% complete.
And you see, there's all students from various schools, what they are doing. It's not because they want to help any government.
They want to feel proud.
They are just sustaining the pride of having been through the school. Because Bernard, you sit here and talk about PSEC.
Yeah, man.
I sit here and talk about Suesco
Yeah,
because
man.
the school of my choice. This is it. And so it's a reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to do things to
help the school.
Help bring up the image of the school that we identify with. Not because we want to help any government to do anything. Because, so, see, the problems, the repeated cycles of frustration that government have meted out on us on education, at times you don't get it. You don't get it. They'll come and speak big English. At the end of the day, you go there, the sanitation situation. Look, the whole campus there, they don't even have cleaners anymore.
Are you serious?
You can see a whole campus, look, Sweden Secondary School, how many? 3,500 people. Go and find out how many how do you call
janitors,
it? Cleaners they have. Maybe 2.
Why? Because they can't pay them.
Well,
Actually,
so I'm saying that
secondary schools are becoming.
The access thing has come with problems that we are not managing, and the managers of the schools have been scared to keep quiet. So if you talk plenty, they'll come and transfer you to a place.
Is there a workable way of adding people paying? Let me frame the question properly. You know, one of the immediate challenges you will say, for example, in your school, and I'm sorry I'm using your school, I'm sure if they had more resources at their disposal immediately, like there's people running the school, they can do some things while they wait for big projects. So, and if you call parents and said, if everybody should give 1,000 cedis, even if all cannot give, some parents can give. So my question is, how do we do it so that, yes, you can say the school fees is free, but if a parent has money to contribute, there's a system that makes that contribution useful and accountable. Do you get me? Because the policy is that the tuition is free.
Yeah.
Now they've made a lot of things free from. Everything is free. So again, you've been in the system for just a month, but aren't there parts of the cost component that we can say, look, let's hive this off to parents, okay, whilst we pay the tuition, if that's what the government policy is until whenever they are in power. Do you get me? Because it seems to me as if at the altar of free SHS and it's looking good, a lot of things are going down the drain that we may not be able to recover. Okay, if you have only 2 janitors in a school like for your former school, you have only 20 teachers on campus, you have over 3,000 students. I mean, imagine if you're a Form 1 boy in such a system, somebody takes your food from your chop box, who can you even report to? Or you go and get a skin disease because you go and use the toilet. That is,
they have teachers. You know, some of the schools employ in excess of 200 teachers. In excess of 200 teachers, and I know Swesco, for instance, has about 170 permanent teachers. Okay, of the 170, very few of them live on campus because of the accommodation issue. And so, if you are having problems with supervision and giving students the culture that they so deserve, then you know that the lack of the absence of teachers on campus is one of the problems, and it shows up in a lot of the schools. So we are saying that you have increased access. There's something that comes with access. And because of that, is putting an undue burden on most of the schools. Truth is, I don't even know how they manage it.
Look, how they run the school in a day.
I'm telling you, in my school, I was shocked when I went there the week before last. A lot of the students don't even eat
the dining hall food again.
The dining hall food.
They are tired.
I was shocked that Swesco, dining hall, it's time to eat and people are somewhere else. So I asked, where are they going? They said they are going to eat. I said, this is where the dining hall. They said, no. Some of them, they prefer to buy food from outside.
Are you serious?
I'm telling you.
So dining hall, which is a school gathering that you have to be at. They can go and eat at Mango.
I'm telling you.
And the school can't do anything about it?
Yeah.
Which means that it's a number of things. Probably the quality.
That's serious.
Maybe
so some of them go
maybe even the capacity of the room
dining hall to even
hold all of them.
So you can't even insist on.
And that's the point. Yeah. Because the teacher I was talking, the senior house master said, truth is, we can insist that they should come.
But if they can, we don't have space for them.
Look at this place. Can they hold them? And the answer is no. It can't. So I'm saying that we have increased access and we have created problems and we are looking elsewhere, hoping that by the time we turn our eyes, the problems would have been solved.
Let me make it more exciting. Here's a professor says, Bernard, when the 24 science streams at Presec send students to the university later, they will come to a chemistry department at Legon, which started this year with only 13 burettes for over 2,000 students. Exactly. So they will do, 24 streams of science, probably not doing any proper practical.
Yes.
Come to Legon with that possibly substandard science education. And this is supposed to be one of the best science schools in Ghana. 24 streams. Then you come to a Legon, chemistry department, there are only 13 berets for the whole for 2,000. So that means that 800. How many? What's the ratio self now? Maybe 30 something students or 40 something students will stand around one beret and be doing.
How are you going to improve? But you talk about numbers. Let me give you some numbers. If you look at
just before I come, you see what I'm saying. It's not just a Swesco thing.
Oh, this is
this is very.
It's even probably worse in my school than yours.
Go to Achimota school. Achimota.
Motown, the great Motown.
Charlie, and people are influencing
in all his glory,
all sorts of things. Charlie, why are we doing this?
Charlie, the glory is departed. Ikabod. Yes.
You know, I just wanted to give you. You were talking about teacher-student ratio, right? If you look at the district profile, like, you know, in terms of school data, for example, 2019, 2020. So the total number of students across, so public, TVET, private, okay, you have a total of about 8,455 students. Are you following?
Go on.
Now, the number of teachers across that same spectrum, i.e., public, TVET, private, is 405.
Wow. So can you go through the numbers again?
So the total number of students per the data I'm looking at, just looking at public SHS, TVET, and private put together, SHS 1 to 3, is 8,455.
Okay.
Now, across that same spectrum, if you look at the number of teachers, public SHS, TVET, private SHS, you have 405.
All right. This is serious.
Yeah.
Let me do a couple of things. I want to summarize why I did this topic. I'm saying that churches, alumni organizations, business owners must start getting frontal in the education conversation. For example, next week there's a conversation the Alumni Alliance are holding. I'll be moderating that conversation. It's about financing secondary education. It's something that we have to be interested in commenting on. And we have to be consistent across old schools so that there's a certain quality of ideas that comes to the table. Because we are entering an electioneering season. And I feel like the more better quality ideas people bring, the politicians may be forced to adopt some of them. So if there's an opportunity to engage as a teacher, as an old student, or as a stakeholder in education, please come to the party. Number two, the churches. I'm saying that they should do their own independent review of what's happening in the schools and come up with position papers that they can send to both government and opposition. Presby, Catholic, Anglican, Methodist, all of them. They should not shrink in this conversation. They should come out and say, look, observing education over the past year or past decade, these are the things we think should improve. Right? Because I don't have all the answers. That's point number two. Point number three, parents. Parents must be more vocal, even within the PTA system. All right? Because they are in that whole setup, they are the only people who can really do something. Because the teachers have been gagged. The head teachers can't say much. Except speech, they read a speech, they go and hide. But the parents have a stake. Okay? And the parents are more than the teachers. And the parents are in churches, they go to they know how to compare notes. If we don't rise up and start engaging the issues frontally, we will sit here and our children cannot even spell. Because if you have 24 streams for science, if I add business, general arts, what's the other one? Visual arts and agric, then it means that the school, they have over 50 streams.
Home economics.
Charlie, 24 streams for science. So science 1, A, B, C, R to 24. If you're a math teacher for that, how are you going to manage the teaching? If somebody doesn't understand, do you even do tutorials? You know, how do you even teach people skills? They taught us how to even wear tie and wear cloth. How will you learn those things in a condition like this? So the quality of what the person is getting is low. And the second, third, or final point. So just like in 50 years ago, the churches built schools and now they are state schools. I think the government's posture to private schools should not be antagonistic. All right? I think that if there are private schools, we should have a conversation with them about how they can come to the party to ease the congestion in the public schools. Instead of being seen as, as for people that are doing business, you are not part of the conversation. All right? Because a school is a school. We are not saying, the SDGs on education didn't say that students should go to public schools. They said they should be educated. So if they go to even a private school, once they get education. So I think the Minister of Education should get the private schools into a more open partnership Rather than the posture I see right now is like, look, you guys are charging your fees, so you do your own thing. I'm not interested.
Just well made. You see, the 24 streams that you talk about,
and 80% are borders, by the way.
yeah, I just noticed that it's not unique to only Presec. It's not something that's unique to only Presec. Now, again, I can talk about Swesco. Swesco has about 81 classes
For 3-year groups.
Yes.
So on
So that's about 27.
27 per.
27 per year group.
But still, I was
81
we size just
no,
24.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Now. It's not unique to only 81 classes. Currently, 54 are on campus because obviously, did I say level?
Yeah, so
The Form 2 people are waiting to enter. So we have 54 classes between 2-year groups. So check the average. 27.
gay is 30.
Yeah. So it's something that's the emerging. So long as you have only 3 years in school, they will find ways of expanding, in a lateral sense. But how do you expand and not resource? And this is where we are. And the resource is having a good reality of what pertains on the ground. Because if you don't have a good reality,
You will never make the right
yes,
decision.
because you talked about the Alumni Alliance thing.
Yeah.
And
Next
actually,
week.
it's the Achimota Speaks.
Yes, so
program.
Asmota speaks. Yes, Asmota
Yeah,
speaks.
But the Alumni Alliance is inviting,
Yes, yes.
But I ask myself, who is listening? And who is going to implement?
That is the question.
You understand? Because at times when I hear some of these things, which we need so desperately, the other reality is that a lot of the solutions that they will be throwing out there are solutions that are sitting on shelves at the Ministry of Education already. Not that they don't know, but yet, because that's not how we want to do it. Or we don't want to do it because you are saying it. We have our own way of doing it.
Or we won an election. We know better than you.
Well,
You have won. There was no. That why? What? Are you running for election? That
you are saying that. Look, your children will probably will not want to
they
go
may
to
not
Presec.
go. They may not go.
My children didn't go to Swesco.
They didn't even go close.
But guess what? I'm going to have to work with a secretary who probably went there.
Charlie?
Okay, or I'm going to work with an administrator who went there. So
Or a
every
or a
letter,
doctor or a nurse who inject
or a
you who went
nurse
there.
who went there, every letter that is supposed to go out of your office, you have to physically inspect it. The letter, isn't it double job for you?
777.
You
Let's read some quick comments on this, and then we'll jump into our next discussion. Lots of people are commending the discussion, but we want to move them to the next level of saying if there's a program, attend. Okay. Let's make our views heard by read a few comments.
All right. So the implementation of the free senior high school under NAPO killed the Vim and Spirit of Old School associations to support their old schools. Teachers were threatened not to accept donations. Head teachers were threatened.
But that's not true.
But there were transfers of some teachers who spoke to the media. That is a fact.
But Napo did not threaten people. I mean,
Please talk about Bishop Herman for me. We'll not just talk about one school. We're talking about all schools.
Bishop Herman
It's serious.
Charlie Bernard, when we were young, Bishop Herman, when you hear Bishop Herman, you stand up and salute.
Hannah, you hide.
Charlie, why are we doing
About
this
it
to ourselves?
themselves. They should talk about it themselves. You see, I've told you about my position on
They
this
are very
matter.
influential people in society.
You see,
Well, that's a point.
Silence.
That's a point.
Biyako has enough old boys who can
rise up and
deal with that
matter
situation.
if they want to.
They shouldn't allow.
They should spend one weekend, all of them, go to Bishop Herman, stand in front with placards,
Say, Charlie,
and call the attention of the authorities. Let's not wait for Bishop Herman to die and collapse. Why do we do this?
Literally, the dining hall may collapse.
Like my dining hall in Swesco. Well, look at the dining hall. I said, is this the dining hall that I sat here for 5 years?
No.
The same dining hall.
And the people are... Charlie, you read
It says,
this.
Okwas 98 is doing a project. It says, please take the perspectives of most schools, and first years are being asked to bring A4 sheets to school. The schools cannot buy stationery. That's Abner. Bernard and team, greetings and blessings. Not just secondary schools, but also the primary schools have serious problems in terms of the curriculum. Imagine my son in class 4 being taught market survey and how to start your own business. What does a class 4 people need that for? Let's look sharp. From Takrady. It's Bernard the Prophet. This is something some friends and I are doing for the EP schools and training colleges because we realize nobody's talking. The issues are serious. God be our helper. We share the same frustrations with you on how the senior high schools are being run. Can you imagine the current first years that went to school on the 27th of February, will vacate on the 14th of April, and go back to school on the 9th of June?
How?
As we speak now, they haven't started learning, but we are preparing for vacation.
Wait. They went to school on 24th February. They vacate on 14th April.
Yes.
They haven't started learning. They're preparing for vacation.
Yes, that's what Maoli Tamale says. He says we have to discuss the academic calendar, what qualities of learning is going on in our senior high school with this free SS. But you see, the day we discussed the calendar, the way they calculate contact hours, by the time they are done calculating the contact hours, everything matches up. They will tell you that everything is on point. So you cannot technically it is on point. You can't complain.
That's what we are saying has to be dealt with, so that when we review independently what is going on, then we can come up with.
Me from SHS says, Bernard, I went to a disco speech day last week, and can you believe that it's only Form 1s and 3s that are participating because apparently Form 2s are on vacation?
Oh, so you are doing speech day during vacation, so it means you can't even go to your.
Well, same for every school. I mean, Swiss school there are 2 streams.
So the Form 2s, when will they get their prizes?
No, they will get it next year.
Okay. So this one says,
this is ridiculous.
You know, because if this is the standard cycle, then it suggests that you have 2 opportunities of speech day,
Form 1 and Form 3.
Form 3 at all times.
Anyway. Yeah, so Bernard, these are some of the messages that have come. But I have a question though.
Yeah.
So we opened some new STEM schools. I wonder what the numbers are in
What's
those,
that?
the new STEM schools.
What's the
Science, tech, engineering, and math.
They said they will build a
Meaning
project.
what?
They will build a project.
So they started.
in every
You see the slogan thing I was talking about. I wanted to draw
No,
you
he
to
said
the
they will
bottom.
build. He said they will build a project in every
Every
something.
district
So,
or
but
some place.
basically using a project model.
So Achima
The
Bomusu
slogan thing I'm talking
has a STEM school.
It's a slogan thing.
Has one. Bosom Tree Girls
about. And there are
STEM school.
billboards
no,
all
he's
over.
giving you the list.
Yeah.
There are about 13.
Yeah, 20 actually.
20 STEM schools.
So right now, Chima Bomusu has one, Basenkwe has one, Bosom Tree has one,
Yeah.
and Accra Senior High School
Has one.
has one.
So you go to Eastern Region.
Yeah.
You bypass Koforidua Secondary Technical
And go to Achima
and go
Bomusu.
to Abomosu. What kind of logic is that?
Because we STEM.
STEM.
Please.
Science, technology, engineering,
You
mathematics.
leave Koforidua Secondary Technical.
And go to, yeah.
You leave St. Peter. You see what I'm
Because
saying?
you want to
That-
build a STEM school for
No, you need
research.
to leverage it. You need to choose schools which will have a knock-on effect.
So like Pesco.
Exactly. Go to Abomosu. Abomosu is where?
That's where we discovered diamond in Ghana first.
Oh, please.
But my question
And
is,
I'm not talking down on Abomosu. I have lived in the area before. Proper.
You are an Eastern Region villager.
I have lived. I'm not talking around.
No, you live in Abomosu.
And you name all the way to Kede to Odana.
You know,
I'm just saying that. How do you go and hide it there and say you are doing?
No, because
Is it just
we want to expand the opportunities for the poor people. We want to expand the opportunities.
we want to see the numbers. Because if Presec has 24 science classes, and this is Presec,
I'll be serious. How much
the STEM school at Abomosu.
Yeah.
I want to see the numbers.
And the other question you should ask is, so these 24 streams in Presec, how many labs are they working with?
Hey, that's what I'm asking.
What kind of practicals?
What
do
the
they do?
numbers are.
So, which goes back to the question I asked about: do you build new or do you expand the old? Because if you have 24 streams of at least 40 people in a class for a school that's supposed to be the leading science school in the country, I doubt the level of practicals they will do before they go to now do the chemistry with the 12.
My bottom line on this, I've told you that this thing we are doing, the way we are doing it now,
Yeah,
my message remains the same.
We'll see.
5 years from now,
you will see.
we will see this country.
But what about your own school? How many streams do they have? Why don't you want to say it?
No, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's not like Preppers excluded. It's everywhere. And which is why I happily told you that for me, personally, I made a decision that
That's what they
You are checking out of the
I've
system.
checked out. No child of mine is going through this system. No.
But you can afford it. But we can't.
Wait,
No, I will sweat.
The STEM school. Let me go back. Find out how many teachers, qualified teachers, they have sent to.
Oh, they'll post them.
No, how many have they done?
Well, have we changed?
No, I'm saying that
And then how many buildings? You understand?
I think because it's the minister's pet project, he will make sure they get the people. I'm very sure. Of
But
that.
the other schools, there.
I'm very sure that they will get.
I'm okay. I don't have. You see, I'm just saying that with the head start that schools like PESCO, Kofodia Sector, what's the one in
Ojos, St. Martin's,
St. Martin's, Ojos, and things have. You don't go and set up a STEM school and jump resources at the expense of the other schools and tell me that because you are doing STEM.
Yeah, because I want to show something.
Show
I want
something.
to show what I've achieved.
Not at the detriment of the wider populace. This is the point I'm making. It is to complement what is already there.
Not to then skew the resources.
Let me take from everywhere and go and push it here because I want to do a public show of it. This is the point I'm making.
That is the problem. So
if at the end of what is the education minister's name?
Dr.
Educhu.
A new minister comes and
by
says
the
it's a STEM
time
school.
you are done, you have messed up Pojos, PESCO, Kofodia Sectec, and then you have one thing hiding in Abomosu to showcase. You have failed.
Yeah, but the problem is that the other challenge is father, even if he leaves, whoever comes may not even be interested in that STEM school because he will say it's somebody else's project. So you see the problem we create for ourselves. So then it's like for 3 years there's a good STEM school, and then if there's no continuity,
we should just de-emphasize the participation of mainstream politicians in this education story.
to be tough.
No, we should de-emphasize.
Okay, then we'll start.
We should de-emphasize because this is where the problem is.
It's true.
If the Director General of Ghana Education Service is not appointed from outside and is somebody who rises through the rank and earns the position, if he says that I'm implementing a policy, the next person won't come and change it.
It's true.
Because it's organic. It's part of the being of the organization.
100%.
But if you come in and you bring your own Director General, if this person comes in, he bring, there's a man who used to work as so and so, now he doesn't have a, go and bring him to come in. And I'm not saying that the person there is not qualified.
We are what you are saying.
I'm saying that there's something that has to be organic to an organization.
Otherwise, it will become.
But that's what Clocksack
You are
has
on
been
point.
saying
You're on point,
the
100%.
last month.
Yeah.
That
you
the way
need-
these appointments are being made needs to change.
And it's not just on education.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a lot of these directors coming in with their own sort of, it's like everybody's coming with their team.
Yes.
So when they leave, continuity is not there, we spend money, and it's like the same, but it's politics, God, politics.